We don't get up on any of our beds.
Nearly 22 million veterans live in this country. California has the highest number, 2 million servicemen and women.
Anybody that served in the uniform of this country is a veteran. That means veteran, veteranus, it means the old ones. Old not by time or life, old by experience.
Certainly being a veteran is one component of my identity, and I have a personal as well as a professional desire to help.
Assemblywoman Susan Telemontes Egman is one of the first women veterans working as a lawmaker at the California State Capitol.
I've been a big advocate of trying to make military education, which is excellent and really trains you to be able to apply that when they come back. I was a combat medic, was able to assist and even do some surgical procedures myself. Coming back out, I couldn't do that with an RN degree. It was hard for me to find my place, so that's why I transitioned to being a social worker, so I was still able to work in hospitals.
From her district office in Stockton, Assemblywoman Egman acknowledges women are playing a larger role in the military than ever before. There are 2 million women vets.
The military has historically been a man's world, so it certainly faces challenges.
200,000 women veterans live in California.
I went to the military because I wanted to have an education, I wanted to travel.
Tina Hayden had a dream, but that dream soon turned into a nightmare.
I was 18, I was very timid. I didn't go too far. My basic training, I was raped by my senior drill sergeant.
We know that there's a high degree of rape that occurs on military bases still, and people still not wanting to talk about it, especially if sometimes the abuser was somebody who was over you.
I was scared, so at that time I didn't tell anybody.
Tina started drinking heavily, and then the unthinkable. She was raped again.
The second one was brutal. I was tied up, and I was walking home from the bar, and I felt like it was my fault because I was drinking. So I did talk to a female officer. I was transferred to field artillery. I wasn't treated very well. I got pregnant by one of the 3 men that raped me. I found out later on that the pregnancy was in my records, but she never did turn in the paperwork about the rape.
1 in 5 women will experience military sexual trauma. They call it MST. 1 in 100 men will also be assaulted.
I think the biggest misnomer is it's not just females. There's a significant amount of males that are also MST survivors.
Stigma and shame often prevent the reporting of MST.
The first time was the senior drill sergeant. He said, "Who are they going to believe, me or you?"
Depressed, Tina got out of the military. Drug addiction took hold, and then homelessness.
And went to jail, and that's when I came in contact with New Directions, and they saved my life.
Located in the VA complex in Los Angeles, New Directions has women-specific programs. All veterans are given mental health services, housing, and drug treatment.
All medical issues are covered by the Veterans Administration, but we assist veterans in a variety of other ways, including job placement, getting their legal issues straightened away, and helping them basically reacclimate to society, reunite with their families.
It's a spiral. Once they unfortunately start using the poor coping skills like substance abuse, what typically happens is they first burn out their families, they burn out their relationships, they burn out their friends, they lose their job, and unfortunately that's when they become homeless.
Because of all the trauma, Tina didn't see herself as a veteran. Veronica Olson felt the same.
My calling was to serve my country, so at almost 19, I joined the Air Force. My supervisor was trying to hook up with me and would plow me full of alcohol even though I was underage. That I was the only female in the command post. A command post is a high-profile job, and I would be held to a different standard. I got in trouble for drinking it, so I'm going to drink more. I lost my mind, and I wanted to hurt myself.
Veronica was put in a psychiatric hospital, before getting an honorable discharge.
The drinking escalated quite a bit, and I eventually graduated to drugs. And in my eyes, I was like, why would I go to the VA? That's for veterans. I wasn't trying to kill myself, but I sure was hoping and praying for death. And one day, my dad told me about New Directions. And I don't know why he was putting so much effort into trying to find me help. Just hearing a few sentences on the phone from this woman that cared and considered me a veteran, I just broke down and cried. I was so ready for help. When I got here, there were women my age and older who had served in the military and had similar problems and similar experiences that loved me unconditionally and had my back the way people had when I was in the Air Force. And it felt good again. I felt good again. And my life has gotten better ever since.
Trauma is held in certain portions of the brain, and it can come out in ways, such as impulsivity, anger, sexual promiscuity, all these different forms of behaviors.
I am a veteran. I'm a veteran, and I don't have to say it with shame anymore.
It's not about the pain, it's about the sorrow that we're leaving people acclimated to something that they didn't create, they didn't run, and they didn't terminate, but it really damaged.
I saw a lot of horrible things that still wake me up in the middle of the night.
Jeffrey Galatioto served 4 combat missions in Iraq with the Marine Corps.
When I was in the service, I was going through my PTSD treatments. I was on medications, and when I got out, everything just stopped. I woke up in the morning, and a dump truck ended up coming by, and dump trucks actually sound a lot like these vehicles that they have in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it automatically triggered me. I actually committed child endangerment. Yeah, I ended up putting a mark on my oldest son's side. I didn't know it until I saw the pictures.
Jeffrey was referred to Veterans Courts. California has 19 Veterans Courts. Most are comprehensive and include treatment for underlying psychological disorders.
I'm talking about PTSD, traumatic brain injury, substance abuse, and effects of sexual assault. Those are the 4 criteria for eligibility in the Veterans Court. And the veteran has to be suffering from one of those conditions or one or more, and there has to be a connection between that condition and the criminal conduct. We have a deputy district attorney, assistant public defender, a probation officer, and we have a liaison from the local Office of Veterans Affairs. And then we have mentors.
I was Jeffrey Galatioto's mentor. And he graduated today, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Superior Court Judge David Abbott helped launch Veterans Court in 2014. A veteran himself, the judge never tires of graduation day.
I've been here in this program for about 2 years now, so yeah, it's been a while.
Mark Espinosa has PTSD from fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Some people who go through a very terrorizing experience when they are in combat, and they find a way to move on without much of a difficulty at all. And then there are others that simply can't cope.
I had to learn the hard way. I'm glad I did, because I had the opportunity to get treatment and learn a lot about the VA and the treatments that they offer through a program like this.
We graduate them.
That means a clean record, close supervision, mental health treatment, sobriety. Veterans Court is reducing recidivism while rebuilding lives.
My record looks pretty good. Looks like a new start.
I can honestly say I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Ironically, the emotions of war are evident both inside as well as outside the courthouse.
I sleep at the Sacramento County Courthouse.
Donald Turner is an ex-Marine living with PTSD. He's been homeless off and on for years.
Sometimes I don't eat for a week.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it.
I went to Desert Storm, and I got there, and all I saw was sand and more sand and a lot of craziness.
Donald enlisted when he was 23 and served 8 years.
I had to shoot children, which, you know, sort of messes with you when you have to kill a kid because he has an AK-47 with 30 rounds in a clip and he's pointed at you. There's nothing nice shooting a kid. There's nothing nice at shooting anybody.
Donald says suicide has crossed his mind more than once.
I think about it because the things I've done and the things I see.
Veterans commit suicide at double or triple the rate of the general public. Street navigator Eddie is helping Donald, Marine to Marine.
We have an interim bed for you. No? Right now.
Yes.
If it wasn't for Eddie, I'd be lost.
Eddie and Field Supervisor Patrick Cornell are lining up housing and services for Donald. And of course, his dog Bandit.
My Bandit. He's the love of my life.
Paperwork processed, Patrick and Eddie drive Donald to his new home.
Yeah, I have hope. If I didn't, I wouldn't still be alive. I'd have gave up a long time ago.
I never